Hi everyone, it's just me tonight. Yes, hopefully you can all hear me out there. Hopefully I've got volume working. I've had a quick rehearsal on what buttons to press and what to do. So I hope we'll get some positive remarks back with regards to being able to see us or see me and Mankey and Panky over that way. I've got to go left for right and right for left. But as you can see, Caroline is not with me tonight. She has not been at all well. We had a wonderful time for our birthday when we went up to London. And it was such a great 5 days. We saw so many things. We decided that we wouldn't video as we normally would with narration, etc. But I would take the camera along and film the odd bits and pieces and see if we could edit something together to share our London experience with you. Well, on an average video that we create, such as the video that went out this week, there could be anything between 30 and 60 pieces of footage. When I came back from 5 days in London, I downloaded 265 pieces of footage. So that was just mind-boggling. Thanks everyone for saying everything is looking good on the sound and the vision and everything else. That's great. Hopefully I don't do anything wrong tonight. Hopefully I don't press a wrong button and you all disappear. I've no idea how many of you there are. There's lots of chat going on. But of course, we always rely on me watching in real time to be able to see how many people have given thumbs up, how many people are in the room. So I'm just going to have to leave it to you to all know that you're there. You'll be able to see more than me tonight because I've got Caroline's computer and I'm on the editing suite, whatever it's called, that we use in order to broadcast. Incredible, isn't it? I am broadcasting live from our studio. But as I was saying, you know, it was fantastic. We had a wonderful time. Caroline loved it. We went up the Shard. We were on the 35th floor, looking out over the trains going beneath us. 35 stories down in London Bridge Station. And everything was great. But then we came home, and Monday Caroline wasn't well. By Tuesday, she was so bad that I had to take my car in for repair. And normally she would follow me and bring me back. But on this occasion, I had to use public transport to get home, which was an experience in itself because we had to take the car to Newport, which takes about 35 minutes, delivered the car, but then the bus trip home was an hour and a half because it goes all around the houses and stops everywhere. So that was quite interesting. I actually had a message from Duolingo. I had never done so much Duolingo in a single day before because I was just sat there doing my French lessons all the way back. But we were hoping Caroline would be well enough to be here tonight, but she's not. There's no way she could stand for an hour. There's no way she could talk for more than 10 minutes without losing her voice. So I recommended that she bail out. But rather than cancel, I would come on and share the show with you all. And on the issue of the show itself, it'll follow the same format. But of course, I've got to try and do everything. So I may not be able to read as quickly as Caroline would because I don't want to stop in order to lose the continuity for everyone and keep you all entertained. But I do have 2 pieces of happy news. I do have a full set of questions and I do have some of the finds because of course, although we've just been up to London, the film I edited to go out this week was from our trip a few weeks back when we were up in Yorkshire and we had a tremendous time. But when I went to clean the finds, I realised that quite a number of them are missing. And Caroline thinks maybe we've got another bag somewhere. I don't know where. I have had a look, but we have got some finds to show you tonight. And amongst them are some of the interesting ones from my perspective anyway. And 1 or 2 that Caroline made a fuss of as well when she was recording. So we'll be sharing the finds, sharing the questions, sharing the happy news, and hopefully engaging in the conversations I can see everybody is saying, hope Caroline gets well. And, Abigail is learning German on Duolingo. Caroline's learning Spanish and German, I think, at the moment. She's switching between the two because she'd already started Spanish but then decided she'd like to get into German because, of course, our grandson we've got 2 grandchildren here in Wales, but our grandchild that lives up in Hastings, his mum is German. So he is growing up bilingual with an English-speaking Welsh dad and a German and English-speaking German mum. So his accent is going to be very interesting as he grows up, and already is. So Caroline's also doing German as well, Abigail. Lots of people saying they all wish her well. Thank you very much from the West Country Mudlarks and others. As I say, it's just one of those things. It's one of those nasty bugs which has only affected Caroline. Tech support Tim is fine, I'm fine, but it knocked Caroline clean off her feet, which, as she said, is possibly for the best because I came back to a lot of work that I had to be doing, families I had to visit, services I had to take. And this week I actually had the honour of conducting the service for the funeral of the oldest person in our county when she passed, as the lady had lived in a town or village not a mile from where I live and reached the grand age of 105. So that was a real celebration of life on that day for sure. But hopefully you're all doing well. I hope not too many of you out there are down with lurgy and different things. Hope the weather's being kind to you. But as Caroline would say, we'd better get started by checking who was in first, because that's not normally my job, so I almost forgot to do it. And of course, unlike Caroline, I tend to use the pad on here rather than the mouse, because I'm not a mouse person myself. According to my screen, first one in was Phyllis Williams. Well done, Phyllis. Followed by Anne Goodwin, and then Rachel Bailey. Just pipping Laura Sully's creations to the post and taking that third position. So it's Phyllis, Anne and Rachel. You are on as first, second and third arriving tonight. But I can see as I scrolled up and as I'm scrolling back down that the conversation has been active and there's lots and lots of people whose names I recognise along the way. And that's great to see you all. One or two that I'm not so familiar with, because of course that may be because Caroline tends to follow the chat, and it may be that you're new in. But as Caroline always says, if you want to get our attention, put a row of smiley faces and try, and that may just catch your eye if you're asking a question. I'll do my best to keep the conversation going. Right then. So, I think we'll start with a question, and as always, all the questions are in some way, sometimes more loosely than others, connected to the video. Zero, Tom, you had to wait for me to see, you're bound to interrupt me tonight, Tom, because I'm doing all the talking, which according to Caroline is the norm in our house. Thank you so much, Tom, that is so kind of you, sir. We really appreciate your generosity. We appreciate your channel. We appreciate you as a person. You're a great guy and we love spending time with you. But thank you so much for that gift. It means so much to us as it goes into the coffers and makes it possible for us to do more and more with the channel. So I really do appreciate that, Tom. Thank you. So, as I say, I'll ask the questions. And when I finish the question, I will say go. The moment you hear me say go at the end of the question, please feel free to then put in your answer A, B or C. Now, while we were on this week's trip, Caroline commented on how many bits of Proving Bowl we find when we are out on our mudlarks, whether it's in rivers, on dumps or wherever it may be, always seem to turn up bits of Proving Bowl. Very often with that familiar yellow glazed interior and then the unglazed terracotta clay to the outside. But she also suggested that one day she'd like to collect a bucket full of bits and do a Franken proving bowl and put them together and see what she comes up with. That should be quite a task, and I would think that it would look rather unusable at the end of the day for its purpose, because of course the purpose of a proving bowl is to place the dough in there so that it may rise before it goes into the oven and is baked. So this question is related to bread making and dough rising, because the oldest evidence of bread making that has been discovered in the world are some crumbs which are believed to be 14,500 years old. Now that is really a long time to leave the cleaning up, isn't it? But whilst those crumbs of bread are 14,500 years old, the concept of adding yeast in order to create bread came later. When did the archaeologists believe that adding yeast to bread became a thing as we do in the modern day? Was it A, 10,000 BC, B, 5,000 BC, or C, 1,000 BC? Go. So there we have it, 14,500 years ago. So we're talking 12,500 BC that they actually discovered crumbs from bread. But it wasn't made with yeast. That came later. When do they believe it began? Do you think it was 10,000 BC? That would be A. 5,000 BC? That would be B. Or 1,000 BC? That would be C. Very confusing with A, B, C's and all those BCs. I'm starting to confuse myself. Oh, Stephen Webb, thank you so much, sir. That is truly appreciated. Thank you, Stephen. You're a gentleman. That's very kind of you for your gift there for the super chat. Thank you so much. Now then, there's lots of answers coming in. Lots of people having to go at this first question. Let's have a look up here. There's lots and lots and lots and lots. And some of them are right. But who's the correct ones? Right then. Well, I can tell you that with a quick scan down the list, I would say that out of all of those answers, 3 are correct. Because it was 1000 BC that the concept of creating bread that's akin to our modern methodology came into place. When they made leaven bread and they added the yeast. That's when they believe it happens, 1,000 years BC. So about 3,000 years ago. So we're looking for C. So the first C on the list is Laura Sully's Creations. There you got pipped to the post to be one of the first 3 in. But Laura, you've got the gold position for this particular question. Then I've got to come down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 answers to find Lynn Bean. So we got Laura on the gold, we've got Lynn on the silver, and then we've got Dan Fetters as coming in on the bronze. And on my screen, right down the bottom, give yourself a pat on the back, Ian Davis. And Ed Creative, I got a sneaky feeling, Ed, you slipped that in after I told you the answer because you had a B further up. I'm not sure if Ian done the same thing, but there we go. Not a lot of correct answers, lots of guesses, and that's what it's all about. But I'm not surprised that a number of you didn't go for the 1,000 because it does seem a long time, 11,500 years of making bread without putting yeast in it. But that's what they say in the research, and who are we to argue with them? Okay then, folks, thank you very much for joining in that, and well done to those who got a podium position. Okay, there we go. As Abigail said, wow, that is recent. Yeah, isn't it mad when we say 3,000 years ago, we say, oh, that's quite recent. But of course, everything is relative. And because of all of us, with our love of history and our love of knowing things about the past, suddenly everything comes into scale. Whereas in our lifetime, thinking of things that happened when we were in our teens seems a long time ago. 1,000 years BC, when it comes to bread baking, doesn't seem very long ago at all. There we go. Lisa Roberts, late to the live show. Don't worry, you made it. That's more than one of the hosts did, because Caroline hasn't even made it tonight. So good to see you here, Lisa. Ed says, question is, did they add yeast or leave the dough somewhere for a while so it got natural yeast? Or you were always coming up with intellectual questions, you are, Ed, and I trust you'll do your research on that and let me know. There we go. So, I tell you what, I'll do a find. Let's have a find, shall we? I did say that I would clean this up and bring it along. So I'm going to start with one of my, always a joy to find, and that is melted glass. And I've had a good go at cleaning this up. It looks great until it dries off, and then it's had a hard life. But I don't think you can see the texture along here, which I thought was brilliant when I was cleaning it up. It looked really good. And there's a real form and a shape to it. It almost feels like, when you look at it like that, if you could put a head just there, if I put a head on the top there, I think that would be job done. Because even from the back, it definitely looks like it could be someone standing in a cloak. So I'm thinking that I'm going to try and find a head. I don't think I've got a head lying around here. You never know. There's not many people that can come on YouTube and say, I wonder if I got a head lying around here. But you know what it's like in these parts. We've got all sorts in this place. But, right. Yeah, don't think I can actually display what I'm thinking of here, because that would be too if that head was on its own and I could somehow, don't know if we can get the effect of it sort of sitting in on the body there, then that's the sort of thing I'm thinking of, only actually set in this recess. So that's what I've got in mind. Don't know what you all think of that idea, whether you can see it, because as I say, it's all in the eye. I've got the advantage here that I've got the light coming through this way, so I'm seeing all of the shades of different colourings of amber through to dark brown as I look at it. But of course that's difficult to show you because I don't have a torch to hand, and I can't run off and look for one because it'll just leave the screen blank. But what do you think, folks? Because obviously with that rather bent base, but it's still sufficient for it to stand freestanding, and I think it would look like, yeah, Phyllis says it does look like a cloaked body. Looks like mother with a child standing in front hugging. That's from Ed. Yep, here we go. And a few people say looks like an abstract sculpture. That's from Anne Goodwin. Phil, you need an oriental or a monk looking head for that. Now that would probably work, yeah. So I'm going to have a search through my shed, see if I can find a suitable head. Not you, Ed. Ed with an H if you're from anywhere else other than Wales. But so there we go. I was quite pleased with that, actually. When I cleaned it up, I felt it was even better than it appeared on the day. Well, I suppose covered in mud, you couldn't see any of the texture or anything. But I was well pleased with our find. And I could see other people agree. Yeah, Abigail says looks like a monk. So we're getting a few people coming through, and that's what I've got to do now, is just find a head to go with it. And if we haven't got one in the shed or anywhere else, I'll just keep hunting in the dumps and rivers of the UK until I find a head that'll go on there. Now, another thing that was of interest was something Caroline picked up. But when she picked it up, she thought of me. Isn't that nice? And that was this, which I think has cleaned up rather well. Because the only thing I'm not sure of is whether I would use the side up that is meant to be up if I use it as a plinth. Because that is quite nice and shiny. But there again, on some occasions, like if I was displaying this, I would be more tempted to place it on that side. Because I think the colourings work better. Myself, I may be wrong. Maybe, what do you think, folks? Do you think as a plinth? Oh, I don't know. Oh, it looks quite good on there because there's a contrast, isn't it? And now, if I could put a small light under there, and then put that on there, then stick a head on the top. Ooh, that might look... Now see, I was convinced that would look best. Which I like, because these colours are very much a reflection on what's happening here. You know, that would look quite good. Like that. But then, when I turned it over that way to show you, I started to wonder, ooh, I don't know. Maybe that would work well. What's your thinking? Unglazed or glazed? Which would you use for this particular piece when it's made? Because I think where they came from the same dump, it would be good to use them and display them together. There we go. These and Lynn saying a plinth, a plinth. Yes, my kingdom for a plinth. Phyllis says glazed. Yeah, Phyllis thinks that the glazed side would set it off better. I don't know if anyone else has got a thought or an opinion on that. Rachel glazed, Ed glazed. As I say, it surprised me. It was only when I did it then, my thinking before I put them together was to use the other side. There we are. Lynn's going with my original idea, but at the moment it looks like it's running 5. It's running 6-2. It's 3-1. Oh, it's coming up now because now it's 6-3. So it's 2-1. Oh, now we've got another 2 come in, so back to 4-1. Hey, there we go. So it looks like glazed is winning it on the opinion poll, but I'll see when I get the head, because if I end up with a porcelain head, perhaps I could replicate the colour of the base and put it on into the head. But I'm certainly impressed with that when you think all I've done is taken 2 things from the dump, washed them, and put them together, and that's the creation we've already got. And I'm sure I'll be able to find other things to put around it as well. So there we go. And that's just the work of nature and vandals. People who burn bottles and smash proving bowls have created something which we can put together, and if we can just find a head, we'll have ourselves a monastic ornament. So there we go. I'm quite impressed. I'm pleased with that. I really am. Lisa, I like both, but prefer the unglazed for the contrast between the shiny glass and the matte unglazed surface. There we go. That's good thinking. I can see where you're coming from there for sure. And of course, if I don't glue it down, I've got the option to place it on that side when I choose to, and if I want to, I can turn it over to that side. Do you see? I tell you what, we have multiple options here, and all of this from stuff that's not only been thrown away, but in fairness, if you ask anyone what has happened to these 2 things, they would say they have been destroyed. Because that is nothing like what it once was. That would have been quite a chunky proving bowl, that would have. And that certainly is, in fact, the only way to use that is upside down, because originally that would have been a jar. But if I'd found that jar on the dump, unmelted, I probably wouldn't have taken that bag space to bring it home. But the reason it came home, because I knew, beyond any shadow of a doubt, there was no way that I would have one like that already in my collection. And that's the beauty of originality. And as I've said before, and I'll say it again, folks, there's a lesson for us all there when it comes to life. Because as you go through life and you get certain things happen to you and life just comes, things come your way and they cause you to take some knocks and some bumps, at the end of the day, even if you don't think you look as good as you once did, the reality is everything you go through just makes you more unique, more individual, and more precious. Because I brought that home because it is absolutely unique. Okay, well, we better have another question. Now, I can't show you the find for this, but I'm sure you'll all remember when I tell you. Because Caroline and I had quite a laugh, because Caroline found, when I found a shard of china and I used it in the plain or patterned game, Caroline said, oh, it looks like it came off an apocrypha jar, you know, from a chemist. And I said, well, I thought that as well. And I struggled to read the word until I realised the word was QRSTU, which of course, it was the alphabet. And from the shape of the shard and the way it was written, we presumed that the alphabet had been written around a mug. Possibly in 2 layers, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Or Z, depending where you come from. And that would have been possibly a child's mug so they could learn their alphabet. So the question I want to ask you now, and don't forget, wait for the go to give me the answers, is in what century did we start to use the modern alphabet with 26 letters here in the UK? Was it A, the 16th century, B, the 14th century, or C, the 12th century? Go! So what do you think, folks? We're in the... What are we in now? 21st century, isn't it? Aye, that's right, just checking with myself. We're in the 21st century because it's in the 20s. So when we say the 16th century, we're talking the 1500s. That would be A. When we say the 14th century, we're talking the 1300s. That would be B. And when we say the 12th century, that would be the 1100s. That would be C. Which of those do you think was the time frame in which Britain began to adapt and adopt the alphabet that would be recognizable today with 26 letters? Some of the shapes of the letters may have changed over the time, but that idea of the 26 letter alphabet that is our modern concept now, when do you think it took place? Oh boy, we've got a lot of answers in. Lots of people think they know their alphabet. Let's have a look. Ooh, way to the top. There we go. Right then, let's have a look here. Ooh, what a lot of answers. But yet again, yeah, there's more correct answers this time than last time. But at the same time, I don't think the correct answer is in the majority, because the 26 letter alphabet only came into use in the 1500s, which is the 16th century, the most recent of those dates again. And I think that's caught a few people out. So we're looking for A. And the first A in is from our good friends, the West Country Mudlarks. And I'm sure everyone here is aware of the fantastic channel they've got, the lovely couple they are, and the wonderful things they find in the West Country. And today they are getting a gold podium place for guessing A, the 16th century. Well done. And then we got to come down and down and down and down, because the next one to get a correct answer is about our 12th answer in, and that's Bonnie Tyler fan 34, who is immediately followed by Ian Davis with A as well. So we had 2 A's in a row. So it's West Country Mudlarks on gold, Bonnie Tyler fan 34 on bronze, and Ian on silver. Sorry, oh, I'm moving you down one. On silver, and Ian Davis, you were on bronze. And I'll just run down and give a quick mention for another 2 in a row. Susan Haywood, Abigail House, because you got the correct answer. And Lisa Roberts wrote 16th, which is correct. And Karen said, I would say 16th with printing new. So there we go. They were the ones that got the correct answer. But as I said, our podium positions were awarded to West Country Mudlarks with the A, and the 2 in a row, Bonnie Tyler Farm 34 on silver, Ian Davis on bronze. So there we go, folks. Well, catching a lot of you out tonight by not being as long ago as you thought it might have been. And of course, that's what I do. I try to put the answers so that they tempt you in another direction, see? See, that's sleight of hand. Anyway, I wondered if I'd manage half an hour on my own. I already have, so we'd better have some happy news. I'm going to share some happy news with you now. And the first happy news I'm going to share, it says, amazing recovery of coral reefs. Now, we're all aware that there's a lot of destruction going on around us, and there's a lot of damage being done to the infrastructure of our world. And sometimes it's nice when we see something positive, because very often we've made mistakes out of ignorance that has harmed the planet. But it's always good when humankind pool their resources, use their intelligence and their ingenuity to try and make right some of the mistakes. And that's what this story is about. Because it says, in a truly monumental discovery, scientists studying coral restoration in Indonesia found that artificially restored coral reefs can regrow as fast as naturally occurring reefs just 4 years after initial transplantation. With many reefs around the world believed to be threatened by stronger storms and acidic seas, the findings show that as long as coral can survive in the water, humans can quickly rebuild reefs that are damaged. There is a drawback, and that is that because branching coral is preferred for reef restoration, the overall species diversity is lower in restored reefs than natural ones. But Tim Lamont, a study co-author at the Lancaster University UK, said that while longer-term assessment of restored reef is needed to fully understand its capability, the success shows that if humanity can stabilise the climate, we have the tools to undo some of the damage that climate change has brought to the coral reefs. So there we go. Bit of positive news, bit of happy news, bit of good news. And it's always good when we can have some good news. You know, I realise that we need to know what's going on around us, but I think we need to have balance as well. We need to say the good as well as the bad. We need to have the things that lift us up as well as the things that could easily get us down, because then we find the strength to keep going. And I was encouraged by that. As I say, humanity, yeah, we make our mistakes, but also we have the capacity, if we choose to try and put some of those things right, which is exactly what the scientists are doing, and to great effect. So that's absolutely brilliant. Okay, let's have another find. Now, this is a find that I particularly liked. It looked nice when Caroline found it and picked it up, but I think it looks even sweeter now that we brought it home. And there's something written in the lid, which I've tried my best to see, and I'll have to see if Caroline can get a magnifier out and take a look in there, because can you see there's definitely a number or something and some details, which I think indicates to me, even without being able to see the information, that indicates a level of quality to this little teapot lid, because I know it's a lid for something that contains heated liquids because of the hole through the top, because that would have been to let the steam come out. So that's my presumption on that. And you can see this beautiful curve, just sloped shoulder there for sitting in the pot. But I really liked that. I thought that was an absolute cracker. And I'm sure I'll have something down the shed that lid will fit. There we go. Isn't that nice? I was impressed. And the colouring and the patterns. You know, more often than not, if we find teapots and lids, more often than not, they are quite plain. But this was obviously something a little bit different. I see Abigail saying if we work together, and that is so true. It's amazing what can happen where we pool our resources, and not all of us have the intellect and intelligence to go off and start rebuilding coral reefs, but we can all do something, and when we get together we can do a lot more than we can on our own, which is what makes being part of the human family so exciting and so wonderful. But I really like that, and I really thought that was a nice find. So big thank you to Caroline for not only finding it, but hanging on to it and popping it in the bag so they came home, so that I had the pleasure of cleaning it up. And I know it's slightly chipped and nibbled, but as I said with the glass, it just gives it character, and it shows it's been through some stuff, but it's still going. And will find a use, I'm sure. I'll find a purpose for that. Absolutely. Yeah, now there's a thought. Limbean was saying, I bet that's off a tall coffee pot. Could well be. Like one of those, like Port Myrion. Is it potteries where they have the tall one and they have the phoenix on the side? That sort of thing. Because that looks like it was done on almost on a potter's wheel, doesn't it? The smoothness of that is very nice. And as I say, it has got a stamp to it. And if I can distinguish what that says, then there's every possibility that we'll be able to find the item. If I can get the name of it and then look it up, we may find an item with a lid like that on it and be able to share that all with you soon. Now, one of the things that didn't come home with us, because again, big thank you to Beata for that lovely bag. It really did come in handy because it's one of those bags you can fold up and pop in your pocket. So I happened to have it in my pocket, and when we got on site I realised I didn't have my backpack or anything to put things in. But of course it wasn't the biggest of bags and I didn't want to break it. So one of the things that I made that heroic decision to leave behind was the brick. But having said that, I have got a brick related item to show you tonight. Because how many of you remember a couple of weeks ago I related how Deb Cattell had sent me email saying I found a brick, and she gave me the name of the brick, which I can't quite recall at the moment. I believe it began with a W, and she said, I found this brick and I don't know where it's from, but it's probably from some local brickmakers years ago. So I did some research and I got back to Deb and I said, it is from a local brickworks, but I've actually found footage on YouTube of the demolition of the chimney at the site in the 1960s, which she was able to watch. And I said, and on the ground they have now built a supermarket complex. And Deb came back to me, she said, I've been to that supermarket. And I said, well, there's actually a statue there of what they call the Brickman. And they've put a statue of a worker from the brickworks as a memorial to all of the men and others, men and women who worked at the brickworks, primarily on the brickmaking. It would have been men in the day. So they put a man there, and Deb has been back and she has found the statue and sent me a picture of the statue of the Brickman and Deb is on the picture. So I'm hoping, folks, I'm hoping this works. Please be prepared, and I hope when I've showed you this picture, I hope the picture comes up, and I hope when the picture comes up, I'm going to be able to get back to you. So here we go. Let's see what happens. There we have Deb, and she sat with a brick, and she sat on the plinth with the brick man. As you can see, he stood there leaning on his pile of bricks. And that photo was sent in by Deb, and I think that is absolutely brilliant. Yes, indeed. And as you could see there, the weather where Deb is a little better than it is here in Wales, because we've just had one of the wettest Februaries on record. I heard somewhere on the radio yesterday that parts of the country, Lincolnshire, which is up in Lexi's part of the world, the agricultural community are in problems because they've 11% of their land has become unworkable this year because it is flooded or it is too wet to plant in. So that's become a real problem. So, we think of the farmers as they struggle with that difficulty, which obviously will knock on to all of us, because 11% of your production, that's a lot of food that won't be in the shops in months to come. But it's been tipping down here, but obviously it was lovely where Deb was. And what a cracking picture. What a lovely statue. What a great idea to actually pay homage and respect to those who were there. It's a little like the video of Bargoed that we did. And I showed you on there, and the poem coming down the steps and the miners' heads. And I stood by them to show some perspective, because each head is taller than I am. So they're about 7 or 8 feet high. And there are 3 miners' heads with the caps on, with the lamps on them. And it's to remind a new generation that this entire town was founded on the work that went on in the mines, because Bargoed town grew up for the service of Bargoed Colliery, and that was a world record-breaking colliery that with production records second to none. So that's where the wealth came from. It's all gone now. It's just fields now. We've taken you down there for walks through the river, and you can see the river running right the way through. There's no sign of the colliery anymore. But it's nice to remember, and it's nice to pay respect for those who before us created out of nothing the things that we could easily take for granted these days. So Karen's saying the problem for the tractors is when the land is soft due to the level of water that we've had, then they can't plant because they can't take their machinery on, which is quite true. It's been miserable in Yorkshire as well, and we're saying, we've had so much rain. And of course we're getting wetter summers coming through and then getting wet winters, so it doesn't get a chance to really dry out. But so many of you liking that photo there, and I'm glad you did, because I thought that was brilliant. Deb said there's a couple of photos, but I wanted to share that one. I didn't want to do multiple pictures tonight because I blew the machine, but that one had it all, because it had the statue, it had Deb, it had the brick, it had the whole caboodle, and it just showed the lot. So I'm glad you all liked that. Right, what I'm going to do next is another question. Are you ready, folks? Here's your third question for the night. And as I mentioned earlier on, we found this lid, which possibly is a teapot, but I take on board what Lynn said, could well be a coffee pot. But we also found this. Now, a big thank you to everyone who has observed that while this was most probably, as Caroline assumed, an elephant's trunk, that it could easily be adapted to become a dragon's body. That you could pop a head on there and that would become the neck and chest of, as somebody put it, Puff the Magic Dragon. So I'm having to think about that, because I think I may have a head that could go on there, and I might be able to do something and make a rather zany dragon head and give him a teapot body. I don't know. But whatever I choose to do with it, I think the general agreement is that it would have been an elephant's trunk. So, with that, it gives me the opportunity to once again loosely connect with the subject of the video and ask you a question about elephants. So get ready, folks, because your elephant question is, in 1500, okay, that's around the time that we started using the 26 letters of the alphabet, there were 25 million elephants believed to be roaming just in Africa. But it's estimated that 100 years ago, there were only half that many elephants in the world. What was the estimated population of elephants worldwide in 2023? Has it fallen to A, 500,000, B, 1 million, or C, 2 million? Go! So we had 25 million elephants in Africa in the 1500s. Then when we came through to the beginning of the last century, around at the end of the First World War, that number of elephants had fallen by half across the world. There were about 12 million across the world. So how many elephants do you think we have now? With all of our efforts and conservation, do you think our estimated population in 2023 was A, 500,000, B, 1 million, or C, 2 million? Right, let's have a look. Ooh, lots and lots of answers again. Thank you everyone for being so proactive in the quiz tonight. It's always fun when you have a go. You can't all get it right, but it's great fun. It wouldn't be much fun if nobody answered. And I love putting the quiz together because I know you're a great bunch and I know you enjoy just the entertainment. And it's interesting. You never know. Something you learn just might be useful one day. I can't imagine when, but it could be. And as Chris Tarrant always said on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, every question is easy as long as you know the answer. So what is the answer? Well, I can tell you, sadly, that the answer is we are down now to 500,000, which is not good news at all for the animals. Yep, we're down to 500,000. In fact, I give round figures there because the actual estimate is below. Because that's what I said, it's almost 500,000. Because it's 400, it varies, but if you go 450,000, you'd be there or thereabouts. So we're looking for A. And the first answer to give A was the second answer in, and that was Rachel Bailey. Well done, Rachel, a regular on the show and a regular in the quiz, and you've taken gold. And, the West Country Mudlarks are coming back in and they are taking the silver. And as we go down, looking for another A, it's going to be a while. And our expert in all things Monkey Panda, Ribble Finds and Crafts, you've taken the bronze. Well done. So it's Rachel, it's the West Country Mudlarks, and it's Ribble Finds and Crafts. You were the first three correct answers in. Anne Goodwin went with A as well. Peggy Reed went with A, as did Abigail Howes. And Lisa Roberts. So there were a few more A's further down the list. But well done to everyone. And it's sad. I wish I could say it was C. I wish I could, but it's not. And although there was a recovery at one point, sadly it went back down again. But the recovery has never pulled up anywhere near 1 million. And it is a struggle because even today they are still struggling with the issue of poaching of these amazing animals. And I appreciate that, you know, the situation for the people that do this may be difficult, but we've got to find a way to preserve such majestic beasts. We have lost so much through history. We went to the Natural History Museum when we were away, and there are so many species of animals there that are on display that no longer exist on our planet. So if we're going to try and save our world, I think it would be a sad world if it didn't have amazing beasts like the elephants walking around. You know, at the same time as people are trying to remake mammoths that died out millions of years ago, we're losing our elephants, who are their nearest cousins. So let's hope we hear good news in the future, but that was the answer to the question. Okay, folks, a bit more happy news. And this happy news comes under the title, Anything is Possible, which is a quote from Faith Snap. And the story goes that Faith Snap had always grown up around animals. And though she couldn't see them, she always loved them. Born quite prematurely, Faith has about 10% vision. But she says she never let her disability get in the way of her living her life. And as long as there was accommodation and people to support her, she felt there was nothing she couldn't do. Case in point, Faith was recently accepted into Texas Tech University School of Veterinary Medicine after years of volunteering in local animal clinics. No matter who you are or what your circumstances, anything is possible, she said. I just hope my story can help others realize that you can accomplish anything you set your mind to. So I thought that was a lovely story of somebody who didn't take no for an answer, who didn't accept that the situation she was in and the limitations that were obvious were necessarily going to prevent her achieving her dream, her desire. Because she not only said, I would love to work with animals if I could only go to veterinary school. Then I could work with animals. But as the story said, she went out there and day in, day out, week in, week out, for years, she has volunteered and worked in animal clinics all around her area, giving her services for free and proving that she could do as much as a sighted person can do. And she proved her point, has won her place, and is possibly going to be the first non-sighted vet in Texas. So I thought that was a wonderful story of personal determination, of human spirit, of what we can accomplish when we set our minds to it. You know, just to glibly say anything is possible, I realize that statement does not carry weight. It does not hold water in the absolute. But if you've got something in you that you feel driven to do, don't let anything or anyone tell you you shouldn't try. Because it's only when you truly try that you really know what your limitations are. And time again, we read stories here on the show, and I'm sure you encounter situations all around the world where people just amaze us by going beyond the limits that we would have expected for them. Be one of them. Whatever it is you feel that's the next step for you, don't be afraid to take that step. And as Faith proved, by giving her time freely to do what she loved without reward, she has now got the highest reward by giving that place to her to go into the college and learn her trade. Okay, let's have another question. In a moment, I'm going to show you what Caroline was so kind as to say she believed at that point in the video was find of the day. It was a Bakelite case off a Murphy radio from around the 1950s. I want to know how many dials, how many knobs were originally on the radio. There aren't any on it now, but when I showed it, the holes are clearly seen to represent the number of knobs that were there. Do you think it was A, 1, B, 2, or C, 3? Go! Rightio. Let's see what people come up with. How many knobs were on the radio? How many dials to turn were on the radio? Do you think it was 1, 2, or 3? Or you can use A, B, or C. It's all acceptable. The answers will be coming in. Oh, they're coming in, they're coming in, they're coming in. Oh, yeah, oh gosh. We're even getting answers from people's mums. Say hi to Mum. Lexi, hi Mum. Hope you're doing well. I saw in the chat yesterday that Lexi, you said that all was fine. You were both doing well. So it's lovely to know Mum's with you tonight and having a go at the questions. Yes. So, and I do note that Lexi's being cautious because she's thinking if I'm wrong, I can blame me Mum. Okay, where are we to? Wow. Lots and lots and lots and lots of answers. And I would say 90% of them are correct. Because if you've owned a radio, you will know that on a standard radio, 9 times out of 10, you're going to have 1, 2 knobs. There it is, folks. As I cleaned it up, of course, giving it a good wash, the paint on the front, I'm going to have to find out if that was original or not, but having been in the ground for so long, it is starting to come off. And I did take a look on the inside, Lexi, because you did mention in the comments about sometimes there's a date in there, but there's absolutely nothing on the inside of this one. But nice Bakelite radio. Obviously, it's got its issues, but Caroline reckons she can do something with that. And who am I to argue with the lady? So there we go. Who were the first ones in with the correct answer? Because as I said, there are quite a lot of you, but there can only be 3 podium places. And those podium places go to... where am I at? It's a long way up to the top of this list. So we're after a B or a 2. First answer in came from, yet again, Laura Sully's Creations with a B. Well done, you're on the gold podium. Lise Warren, B, you're on the silver podium. And Lexi's mum, don't get up on the podium in case you fall off. We don't want you having no more injuries, but you could take the bronze because, yes, Mum was right. I'm sure she can remember 2 knobs on the radio. Also, so many correct answers because Lexi, you just got in on the 3rd position, beating Jason, Bonnie Tyler fan, Dan, Mike Sage, Lynn, so many going down, Anne Goodwin. The list goes on and on and on. Well done to everybody who got that right. Now, just a couple more finds to show you before the final question. One is my little ink pot, which is a Waterman's ink, I can now tell you. Now we've cleaned it up. That was Waterman's ink, 2 ounce. On the bottom it says, this container made in the USA. So there we go, imported from America. That was for Waterman's. This container made in the USA. There we are, to all our friends in America. We've got a little bit of the States with us tonight. And the cork that was on the inside, when it dried out, came out. It'll probably drop back in now when I put it in. But you can see the cork that was in the top there. And see, it's now in the jar. Because it's shrunk. It is shrunken. But that was there. Caroline liked this and brought it home. She thought it might be a butter dish. And she couldn't read the bottom. She could read the word London, but it actually says Brand and Co. Limited. So when I get a chance, I'll look that up and be able to tell you all what exactly was in there, or maybe you'll get a chance to look it up and find out. And last but by no means least, before our last question, is Caroline's little find of a cherub with one arm, no wings, and no head. But a little chubby cherub. There we go. She was quite pleased with that and thought she would be able to make use of it. If no other time, I'm sure it'll come into its own in Halloween. Okay, folks, here we go. Get ready for that great debate. How many times did Mankey appear in this week's video? Was it A, 2, B, 3, or C, 4? Go! Here we go. This is always the question. Yeah, I know Mankey. Yeah, Mankey's very impressed tonight because he's got a beautiful treasure chest. He wanted me to just move out the way so you can all see his treasure chest with his lovely bottles in. He thinks it's amazing and just wanted you all to be able to see why he hasn't been joining the show, because he's on guard. He's been left guarding the treasure and he doesn't want anybody to steal it. So there he is up there, but you can see where he is. You can see, and our Panky's been popping over my shoulder there. A bit. But we got lots of answers coming in. Oh, we got lots of answers coming in. Oh, golly gosh. They are coming in thick and fast. Yes. Let's have a look. Oh gosh, where's the top of the list? I think this has become the most popular question tonight. Right then. Okay, well, the answer is, and I'm always relieved when Ribble Finds and myself agree, and tonight we do, because the answer is 3. He was on the tree stump when I was showing the brick, and when Caroline brought over the teapot spout, he was on a tree stump stood behind me. He was obviously, as always, guest at the Plain or Pattern and the adjudicator. And finally, when I sat on the log, he was there, sat with me. So we're looking for 3, and we've got a lot of 3s. But only 3 of you can be in the top 3. And tonight, on our final question, the gold podium goes to Dan Fetters. Silver goes to Laura Sully's Creation, who has shown up on a few podiums tonight. And Lexi B, taking all the credit and not naming her mum, but I'm sure mum helped her, takes the bronze. And of course, straight after that, you've got Judy Erickson, you've got West Country Medalist, you've got Ed Creative, so on and so down. Well done, everyone. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you for all your encouragement. Thank you for making it possible for me to do the show by you being here, chatting away and doing what you do best, which is being kind and nice to each other and spending an hour with a man in an office in Wales. So for now, it's goodbye, and until the next time, have fun. Bye. Okay, now what did she say to do? I know she told me I had to do something. That says stop treaming. Not screaming, streaming. That should work. There we go. Hang on.